Hello everyone, welcome to another livestream. Hi there, hi Dr. Cadman, hi Catman, hi Stump, hi. Hi! Oh, great salary joke. Hi there! Such a banger, I'm learning some of it on trombone! Got some of it down already. That's impressive. Hi everyone. And, well, today just the usual, right? I do believe we should just go with the usual. We shouldn't overthink it. No need to. So yeah, I'm just gonna pop the quantum field theory video. Okay. Where did we finish off? That's a good question. We finished off right here was a wave function. Exactly. We can combine them into a single wave function. And then this, which is the proper explanation, and we need to start with a wave function. Okay. How is everyone doing, by the way? How are your days going? Good, glad to hear. Glad to hear it's going well. Really As of recent, I have so much work, so many different kinds, that's becoming actually difficult to organize it well for myself, which is a surprising problem for me, because in 4 days we'll be doing the big live stream, and I just completely forgot about it. Wait, 4 or 5 days? 4 days, right? It's 46. It is 46. Well, thank goodness I double checked. It's 46. There we are. Electroc, why was it so salty? Minerals, they have the tendency to do that. Complaining about the refugee problem. Oh no, not politics. No. My much new job. No, they didn't. Hi, Timon, by the way. Switch to live chat. There we go. Okay. Blender. Let's open it up and let's keep going. So propaganda file. No, not propaganda. I don't want to spoil any videos that I might have been working on as well. So let me just open up the stuff. There we are. All right. First of all, we need to transition from this to the next segment. And I can't think of no better way than to just drop down. And that is it. Like to the height of 5, maybe? Negative 90. Better. There, it works. Hi Desan, hi, welcome. Hi Noel, hi Ta, hi. How are you all doing? How are you all doing? And then one last thing, which is transition. Okay, there we go. I'm finally adding trans to my animations. The way it was always meant to be. Keep transform, there we go. Right here. Render 000 keyframe. Okay, cool. When the probably time for me to join? Yeah, it is actually. Yeah, I suppose. That's the blue nickname curse, except without blue nickname required. All right, I can make it. I'm professional. Just delete all of these. Delete this. Delete this. Not required. Delete this. It's not required. Delete all of this. It's also not required. Kind of. What the mess this geometry is. Okay, so right here we want piss. What's happening? Why there's so many vertices there merged into a single point? There we go. This and this and this and this and this. Looks good enough, whatever. And then increase the size. Crazy, cool. Don't show up on renders, you boolean. You playing? No. No, don't go back to play more rock, paper, scissors. What's the name of this, by the way? LaTeX figure 10. LaTeX figure 10. Perfect. It worked. Worked exactly as intended. Well, it does certainly seem to glitch a bit. Uh-oh. That's not supposed to happen. Why did it just disappear? Fast? Oh, it being exact is actually screwing it up. Well, that's good to know. I'm glad that the exact thing is screwing it up. So, okay. Transition. Can't. I'm losing my mind. I just wrote down transition and all the Discord memes flashed in my head all at once. I just imagine the fucking woke bird. The bird, and I just... I have been practicing, yes.
Hello.
Hi, welcome, Stump. Maybe we're so proud we're finally coming out as a duck. Hi, the Tefta!
Hey, how's it going?
It's going really well. I've set up the website thing. I don't know if you've seen.
I saw a post on YouTube, yeah.
Yeah, I haven't spent any time on it yet. I really should. I really should organize it a bit better at the very least. But at least I set it up so far.
That's super awesome, man.
Yeah, I tried to do it. I mean, I tried to listen as much as I can. So for it, I mostly did the README, like the description of what's supposed to be made. I still should add like pointers of exact things I'm looking for. So for example, not relying on Chat.js, implementing a different kind of
I've never heard of Chad.js. Is that some kind of JavaScript I'm not familiar with?
Well, Chad.js. It's for the pie chart. I just can't pronounce it.
It sounded like Chad. I'm like, that looks hilarious. I was trying to make a joke too. So. If it bombed,
it's chart.js, so it's basically like default thing people use to make pie charts and different bar charts and whatever. But I would like my own just for the sake of just, it being a bit more modifiable and such. I should just make a list of things I want to add, and then just work on it myself and see if other people join as well.
I wonder how much of it will be AI made.
For these kinds, I would say making it with AI is actually a really good idea. Because I think that with...
did I tell you?
Do carry on.
I have a quantized version of DeepSeek R1. I have a version on Docker, yeah. And so I actually loaded like 10 files and had to analyze them, and it did. It took forever, but it was awesome.
It's incredible that it ran, honestly.
Yeah, it's a quantized version, so.
Is it noticeable? Is it, how bad is it?
Well, it's like ChatGPT 4 Turbo or something, is what I would say.
That's still pretty good, isn't it?
But yeah, I'm only using the 7 billion parameter one, and it's quantized. But I have 123,000 tokens, right? So that's actually crazy that I have so many tokens in the conversation. I think that's the best part of it. That, and it's like ChatGPT 4 Turbo.
That is actually
it's
really
pretty good.
And wait, so what do you have it on?
It's just a Docker instance, but I went because Ollama is the easiest way to install DeepSeek R1. Literally, you just download the Ollama, like exe, and it's a command line, and then you just say Ollama run DeepSeek-R1, and it will download the 7 billion parameter one. So that you can use in a terminal, but I wanted a GUI. So on the Ollama's website, they take you to a GitHub repository that gives you like a Docker image, and you run that. And I have mine running on my GPU. I have a CPU version that was just kind of even slower, but the GPU
How long does it take for like a single response?
It's like one token every 3 seconds or 1 second if I'm having it look at 10 documents. But it would be like 1 or 3 tokens a second otherwise.
Okay, so it's not too bad.
No. I mean, it's almost like you're interacting with ChatGPT 4 or 4 Turbo or something with the 7 billion parameter.
It's insane that you can just have an offline like level of ChatGPT 4 AI. I might get myself one. You know what? Or at least try. I don't actually have a single thing I could get it on, because I imagine it's quite large, isn't it?
No, it's only 4.7 gigs.
4.7?
Yeah, it's about 5 gigs.
And that kind of quantization still...
Yeah, exactly. That's what's so crazy. At 123,000 tokens.
That is madness.
So I don't know of another way you can get that big of a context window with my hardware. Because I have like a 7-year-old processor, but I have the same graphics card as you, and then I have 64 gigs of RAM.
My goodness, that is crazy.
Yeah, I know.
Cheers to DeepSeek, I suppose. I mean,
yeah.
Wow.
So pretty much its revolution is the way that they trained it in a method that it
this is like ChatGPT 3 level revolution.
Yeah. Well, and that's what whatever you think of Elon Musk, he made a statement that open source is still lagging, but whatever we're doing last year, in a year, it will be open source or less.
I'm just really happy that, honestly, because I didn't really like where all the AI companies have been going. For calling itself OpenAI, they weren't very open. I feel like they should change their name to Closed AI. Would be at the very least for the sake of accuracy. So I'm really glad someone actually came around and basically shown off. I mean,
yeah,
to create an open source AI which is better across every metric, which you can quantize, you can get, and you can just have it on your machine is insanity.
Yeah. And it does the same reasoning as like the O1 models. So it's definitely probably way better than 4 Turbo. But if you're running the full parameter, man, yeah, it's so crazy. And it's like the entire internet compressed, right? That's what's impressive. Is in that 5
Yeah, that's
gigabyte
what I
file.
said. Basically, an AI plus Wikipedia, it gives you just almighty knowledge. Where's the stump?
Yeah.
Hold on. If you trained an AI on the entire, couldn't you like use AI to compress files then?
Yeah, you
Actually,
can.
we had that
Video
conversation
files.
on I'm pretty
Yeah.
certain last live stream that Tefta joined. Yes, you can. It wouldn't be lossless simply because you have no way to ensure that it would be lossless. But you very much could compress stuff with AI.
But technically, that's what NVIDIA is doing. So NVIDIA, they release that they literally 24 hours a day, they're training models, I think, on video game footage. And so that's how their upscaling technology works. So the computer actually only renders a super low res image, and then they upscale it. But technically, it's a form of compression in some ways, the way that they're kind of
There isn't
visualizing
even an argument to be made there that if you want perfect compression, then the best way to do it would be with AI, simply because AI can like learn patterns which you wouldn't be able to algorithmically code in, and so because of that,
Yeah.
it can compress really efficiently. My next video will be about that kind of. There's information and interpretation. Well, my next computer science video. Still a couple more coming.
But yeah, so you could technically do this yourself just with stable diffusion. You could like make blobs. You would just take a video and then reduce it down to its noise, and then take the noise and transfer it, and it'll be just compress it to a single 2-bit color. That'd be a fun video. Make it. We should do that for a video. I have a cameo in my next video for you. You, not like a cameo. It's a shout out to your channel.
Oh, I mean, if you want a cameo, I'd be glad to join.
Yeah, well, you should. Well, because
free.
I reference you because the hat is right next to me on for the end. Yeah. You should green screen yourself and just pop out from behind the couch.
Or I can the 3D make it. I can make an animation of them just popping out and disappearing.
Oh yeah.
It wouldn't be difficult if you want. I'm gonna have to do it.
I will send you the file. It's still gonna take me a week to edit my video, so you have a week to do whatever you want to.
No, that's fine. I myself been really slow with videos recently. I've uploaded my last video over a week ago, which is awful. Usually they don't take me that long.
I released a podcast today. That was pretty cool.
Wait, which one?
The Are UFOs modcast.
Okay. I just had to ask which one because there's a couple answers you can.
Yeah. Yeah, true. But I think I spent 36 hours of editing on it.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
By next, you mean next or just one of the 7 videos you are working on? Funny enough, I do not mean the next video. I do mean one of the 7 videos I'm working on, but this is the next computer science video, because now that I'm doing the different series of videos, the computer science, the chemistry, the quantum field theory, the computer science one will be about information interpretation. That will be a fun one. Just move this. There we go.
So I did build a script with AI because I do a lot of research on YouTube videos, but it goes out and it automatically downloads the transcript and the title and description and thumbnail. And so it's like cataloging these so then I can send it to another AI to analyze them.
I do have to say that first of all, what kind of project is that? Hold on. I was about to say something, but struck me. What kind of project is that? That sounds interesting. What are you doing?
Well,
what are you planning?
Yeah. So I do a lot of AI systems. So this is one of my tests. And so I'm going to apply it on a couple of projects, but it's mostly a test to see how good it is. It's like a personal benchmark. So I'm upping the complexity of my projects where I involve AI.
Oh, I see.
So I personally do a lot of research on things. And so I write scripts, and part of it was in one of these podcasts, and I had it analyze and cross-reference. But I still haven't checked both outputs. Blah, 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 boring stuff. What were you going to say?
Oh, I was just going to say that counterintuitively to what many people believe, but this is always counterintuitive because I always... The thing how I mentioned that if you want to have this sort of offline thing, then if you have Wikipedia and DeepSeek, you basically have everything you need. DeepSeek has to be there for interpretation, but Wikipedia has to be there because AI still have a tendency to make stuff up from time to time. And one thing which is very counterintuitive for a lot of people is that actually coding with AIs is great, which doesn't seem to be right considering how AIs tend to make up stuff, but it's actually a phenomenal merge of the two because you can just take code, you can execute it, and the errors you get tell you exactly what the problem is. However, it's really difficult to understand. But at the same time, AI is really good at understanding them, but it may not tell you the exact problem. And so so actually coding with AI is, I would say, one of the best uses we've got for large language models so far. At least, funny enough, so. That's how I've seen it used most of the time. Even by people who are professionals, still use AI to set up like default boilerplate stuff simply for the sake of time or just doing things quicker. Just me was make it quiet and theft. I was just sitting in the background, just making squares. I might have been quieter, yeah. Hi, Santosh. Hi, welcome.
Yeah, boilerplate code is a good use case scenario.
It's kind of a fact we can just get Javas for free at this point. Anyone can just make their own Javas.
Yeah, and no the computational.
Open source. Yeah, that's crazy. Open source, and you can just have it offline in the cloud and everything. You actually can run on anything. Well, wait, actually, isn't it actually anything? Didn't they run DeepSeek on... Was it cluster of Raspberry Pis, or was it...
You can just run it on one. Like you can limit the parameters. It's quantized plus what else did they do? They did a couple of things to make it able to be ran on a single Raspberry Pi. Not a 2040 or whatever the new chip is, but the other one.
No, yeah, this is fun. Give me a second. I just need to render the full cosine function in the background. Quantum field theory. What a thrilling topic. KT. I'm surprisingly enough having my main trouble recently is just not having enough time. I have so many fun things I want to do. Just don't have time for them. I have the ESP sitting. I do plan on actually trying the 8x8 again.
Yeah.
I have it on my desk precisely because the entire time I have it on my desk, because the basic idea is when I'm not rendering anything or when I'm not working on the video, I just want to set it up in a better way, in a clearer way, so that I can actually troubleshoot it. The only issue is I've been rendering animations and scripting videos the entire time, and I actually haven't got the chance to start the work on it yet. But today I probably will.
It's funny, the video I recorded last weekend, was the SPI protocol, because we were talking about that with the 8x8 matrix. So I got a SD card working to read and write. Right? And it uses SPI protocol too. But the reason why we wanted to use the SPI one is because that's a hardware SPI. because hardware SPI pins are dedicated to do that and take less computational power. So there is a couple of reasons why you'd want to use those pins that we found, and some of those were on the inside too.
Okay, serial. Okay, that's serial peripheral interface. I
Yes.
couldn't place because the other one is the single wire. Wait, what's the name of it?
Well, yeah, there's a couple of single wires, but I2C or IIC, and then there's I2S.
Couple single wires. That's. All right, there we go.
So that video was inspired from you and that 8x8.
My failure. I'm glad that my failure with the 8x8 inspired something at the very least. It shouldn't be difficult.
It's not a failure.
Okay,
It's
no.
not easy to do that.
I mean,
especially
okay,
with
I will.
SPI protocols.
I can agree that it's not easy, you know, I don't have much experience, yada yada, but I mean, I truly feel like it was objectively a failure. Yeah, you know, the whole point of the project was for me to learn. I've never done anything like this, and all of these, that's a fair point. But objectively, it failed. I feel like objectively it was. I don't mind that failure too much, because I mean, well, as I mentioned, learning exercise. Kind of the whole point why I'm starting with these things is because I expect them to fail. If I didn't expect them to fail, I would move on straight to bigger stuff. I have lots of fun ideas for big projects. The only problem is I don't have the skill to make them yet. And so I want to start with this. I should actually dig through my electronics, see what else there is. I need to find a tiny screen, because that would be a nice thing if I get the 8x8 walk. Because I don't imagine it would be much more difficult. Unless I'm wrong, because it still would be just a protocol, wouldn't it?
Yeah. But the SSD 1306 is my favorite. It's a OLED display, single color, 128 pixels by 64. You can also get 128 by 32.
Actually, hold on, because if I'm not mistaken, let me just check something real quick. The thing is, I actually got some SD card readers, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
When I say I got multiple, actually. I think there was like a discount or something, I don't remember. But I do have micro SD cards and card readers, so if I... That's
easy. My video
setup,
I'm making on that.
Yeah, so that was exactly my plan. Like, even if I... if I fail with this 8x8 completely... I mean, I don't think so, but if I set it up properly with proper wires and it still doesn't work, then I will feel at least more confident saying that it clearly doesn't work. I just plan to fully utilize the breadboard and, you know, just link up everything clearly instead of everything with white cables everywhere, and then troubleshoot it that way. But if that doesn't work, I could just try to do the SD card reader. And if you want in your video to finish it off with you teaching me how to... how to set up SD card reader. Hey, Abby, I would love to do an actual cameo.
Heck yeah, actually, that would be good.
Well,
I just shot it, and it's actually pretty fun because the the SD card reader and writer, right? That's the benefit of it, because you actually get to understand the MISO and MOSI, because you actually have to send data to the SD card and retrieve it. So
I like the MISO and I just want to say that I like the MISO and MOSI naming convention because it's clear. I really do. It's every single time my brain is struggling to understand which is which. It just makes sense with the I to O and O to I. Yeah. Wait, MOSI. So because hold on. MOSI makes sense. What about MISO? What's the job of MISO though?
Master in, slave out. So that's how you read data from the SD card. If the SD card is the slave, right? Because it is going to be. The MCU will send data to the SD card, and it will say, "Hey, I want this file." The SD card will then.
Then what about MOSI?
Well, master out
For
and
writing.
then master in. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, if you wrote to it, but you also I don't think you can just directly access the memory on SD card. You still have to speak to it some way to get it to retrieve that data.
I suppose that makes sense. How did
Because
it
it's running the it is wait, that's a mind bender. I made a handy chart though.
I don't want to say it's funny. I find it very relatable how you make charts for stuff, because it's the same thing I get when I make animations for things.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes because sometimes on streams where I can't explain something, I just like, hold on, I made a video about this, and just pop the animation on screen. Oh, with Flame it's actually funny, because with Flame, Flame has this thing that people have been asking him about for a really, really long time. Actually, soon I'll make some animations for it, so that Flame won't have to re-explain it over and over, and he'll be able to show my animations.
There we go.
Can someone give me a super simple explanation of what this SPI protocol style with? I can give you a simple explanation, yes, actually. The explanation is really obvious if you walk with it. I will give you a reason why. I will give you a reason why. I won't give you the exact specifics of a protocol, because, well, that depends on which protocol you're using, and I mean, that's more... Okay, I can give you why. Because I'm guessing that's what you're asking. So basically, if you have in the most recent logic video, I don't know if you've seen it on my channel Stump, but basically in the most recent logic video, you may have noticed that all the logic cables I had there, they could either be a 0 or a 1. Like, they could be either be on or off. But if you think about it, when you are transmitting large amounts of data between computers or between machines or whatever, then you are transmitting a crazy massive amount of data at the same time. So for example, if you move a megabyte of data between two things, then that's 1 million, if I'm not mistaken. That's 1 million bytes, so that's 8 million bits. That would be like 8 million ones and zeros. So obviously, you can't just move it simultaneously like I did in the video. Instead, you need to move it one by one. And so that's what you have different interfaces and different standards for, where basically instead of moving them with multiple wires like this, you have a single wire which moves them in order, like 0, 1, 0, 1, 1, 0, and so on and so forth. This may seem simpler than it actually is, because then what you have to also realize is that you have like one cable for data, which tells you how the data is flowing. Then you would have obviously the power cable, you would have the ground cable. What you also want is a clock cable, so clock telling you when the data is switching to the next one. Then I think that's actually it for the important ones, unless I'm wrong. Tefta is the expert here. I'm just trying to explain. But basic idea is you don't want to move data, especially when you're moving large amounts of data. You don't want to move it all at once. You want to move it. You don't want to move it parallel. You want to move it in sequence.
Yeah. So I'm actually gonna paste a link to a short video I made, and I actually put the diagram in the chat for charity checkups for the SPI.
Perfect.
But the video, I was joking about the single wire protocol. So sorry for self-promotion making.
Can I play it on stream, or would you like it?
Of course.
Okay.
No, please.
Sorry for self-promotion. I'm just gonna play it.
So we have 4 wires. Because this is kind of why you need the 4. It's the single wire protocol. It was my. So we have 4 wires in the SWD protocol, single wire debug. And I always love this when they say single wire. Technically, it is true. There's 4 single wires, but I think I know what they're saying. One wire carries the data signal, but in order to interpret that data signal, you need a second wire. The clock tells us how many 1s and 0s are in a row. We don't know which is a 1 and which is a 0, so the reference voltage lets us know that. Let's just throw in a 4th to power the device that we're talking to. So I'll invent a serial protocol that's called single wire that only uses 25 single wires. So we have
But the single wire protocol that only uses 25 wires.
yeah.
I mean, it makes sense. The naming convention of single wire protocol makes sense because you have single data wire, I guess. But
Yeah, and it's duplex, right? So it goes both ways. And it's
yes,
half duplex because it can only transmit one way at a time.
I do have to say that I am. I know it's a side thing, but I am incredibly proud of myself for actually explaining it. I'm proud of that explanation. I got the four wires right, and you know what? I take the little wins in my life. I kind of feel.
So,
Yep.
what I'm understanding is this is a method of transferring data.
Yes.
Yeah.
Imagine, okay, the simplest way to imagine why you do it this way would be like, imagine you're the other device. So why do you need 4 cables? So imagine you get only one cable with data, right? And you measure
Right.
it at different points, and what you get is, I'm not going to do it with graphs because they'll be a bit of a chore to write, but imagine that you get like a 1, a 0, a 0, and a 1, right? So the data you received is 1001, correct?
Yeah.
Well, it would seem so, but that's not quite the case, because what if the device sending the data was actually sending it at twice the speed you thought it was? And in that case, it actually sent 100100101, like this. And you just missed every second number. You wouldn't know.
Totally possible.
Yeah, it is possible. So what you then would need is you would need another wire, which then tells you the speed at which it's changing. So you would need another clock wire, which tells you how quickly the data is being sent over. Then the other 2 wires are pretty simple. I mean, power and ground. I don't think there is the single electronic circuit which does not take power and ground. That's a pretty simple.
You could send it all in one. You technically can send it all in one wire.
That would be impressive.
But think about it. It'd be yeah, because an AC, it would be AC current, right? And you would actually modulate the frequency of the AC, right? It would be
that would be an insane feat of engineering.
I want to do it. I think it's possible. Goodness. I think to make the real single wire protocol.
That's like
that's a video title.
That is.
Let's do it.
That is project.
I can do it.
Listen,
the complexity of those motors are just as bad, right? So you just have to, pull out the different directions. It would power the microcontroller, right? So you're going to have some capacitors. I mean, it's a fun problem.
It is a really fun one.
The true single wire protocol.
But also that would be a pretty massive project. I mean, it's not.
Well,
it's not like a single implementation of a protocol. That's a pretty impressive protocol. True single wire.
But what's funny is that we already do this with radio frequencies, right? Or just wireless charging. So wireless charging, that's just the power, but they're able to with the same principles. So yeah, you'd have a lot of extra circuitry and probably a whole bunch of noise. So you probably would have a low bit rate, but I mean.
Oh, I want to say that Immortal just asked a question. What if the clock is transmitted Wait, the clock is transmitted separately. What if the clock goes out of phase? I actually like that question because there's a difference between designing a standard and following a standard. Standards really often do have redundancy for improper implementation, but especially with low-level hardware standards, they don't have quite much space for it, simply because, well, you're working very few components. So let's be real, if I use the SPI, this is SPI, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So
this is a 4-wire I2C that we're talking about.
But. Okay. So if I use the I2C and if I manage to get the clock out of phase, somehow and I'm just gonna stretch it by 2, represent that because that's a pretty simple out of phase. If I manage to get the clock out of phase with the data, then that is my problem as someone who's implementing the protocol. That's me screwing up the implementation of the protocol. So basically, ideally, you want the clock to stay in phase with the data, I would imagine.
Yeah. Well, and I think the underlying mechanisms, the clock is just kind of everything, even with timing. You have to keep track of every CPU cycle. So But that's the difference between hardware SPI and software, right? Because you're technically just bit banging it if you're just implementing these protocols in software, because you can do that. Because computers and microcomputers are fast enough that you could literally probably do this from a like a 240 megahertz processor. You could have a 40 kilohertz signal easy.
I do imagine that if you actually, I do like this protocol a lot. I really do, because I imagine if you had a single board with a lot of things, then you could just have all the grounds connected the same thing. The voltages would probably have to vary, but then also you could just connect them all to a separate clock, just a singular clock from the entire breadboard, and then you would truly have a single wire protocol where you actually connect them between one wire. I really like standards. Because
Me too.
The amount of thought.
There's something nerdy about them.
Yeah, because the thing is, the amount of thought put into standards, especially the older ones, the older the standard, the more tried and tested it's been. And then you just have all of these features that you wouldn't think of if you just had to do it purely in theory. But because it's been done in practice, people just modified it over and over until you just achieve something that works really well. I guess with hardware standards doesn't quite land as much because they are simple. Once again, they have to be. It's hardware. You don't have many components. If you're not dealing with many components, you can't. Well, adding artificial complexity would just make it confusing for everyone. And given how it's not chemistry only, electronics, that's not desired.
Yeah, so I nerded out and made my own fiber protocol, or I call it shitty fiber. But literally, it uses fiber optic cables.
Swears
Just
always
usually
make their way into fiber pronouns.
Yeah.
Not pronouns, whatever they're called.
Yeah, adjectives or
Wait.
no? What would it be? Adverb? I have no clue.
Wait,
I'm not an English major.
Shitty fiber.
Yeah, because I'm just using plastic fiber. Oh, it is. It is a pun. I didn't even realize it.
That is a pun.
But I'm just using RGB LEDs and then RGB color sensor. And so with those two, it's a single bit, because a lot of microcontrollers have an RGB pixel. And I wanted a headless protocol to communicate with my inventions, so that way I could troubleshoot it without having to worry too much. So I just flashed the error code with the RGB LED, which is standard on some of those microcontrollers.
There's one thing which never even hit me. I know it's I don't know. I mean, I know it's not completely related to what you said, but it has never hit me. I surprisingly often say that the future of technology will always be light, simply because light is like electricity except better with everything. So I do genuinely believe that eventually we will do everything with light. But it never even hit me that when you move data on a wire, then it can either be a 1 or a 0, or it can be like a value in between them if you're actually measuring the voltage. But when you move light, then you can actually get the wavelength and you can take the Fourier transform of it. So if you have a wavelength which looks, I don't know, something like this, some random mess, you can take the Fourier transform and actually you can move multiple, like a whole packet of data on a single photon. Well, not a single photon, but like on a single wave, Where, because if you move RGB, then if you on the other side measure RGB, that is a single wave, except it's multiple waves overlaid into a single wave.
Exactly.
My goodness, my lack of technology is making this explanation really weird, actually.
Well, it's just like radio frequencies. It's like having a receiver that could listen to all the frequencies at the same time, essentially. So the bandwidth is increased because you're going to use different frequencies of light.
Yeah, and that's why that's why you don't need to turn off your Wi-Fi router if you want to use Bluetooth in your office. Which, once again, is maddening. I just... It's one of these things people don't appreciate. The fact that every single way of wireless transmission is just based on electromagnetic waves. And they absolutely are interfering with each other all the time. But we just created this tool. It
absolutely boggles me that we've found a way to just... Like, because there's a limited amount of waves before... Like, eventually you're just not going to be able to get a higher wave. And we've somehow found a way to just reuse them.
Yeah, Fourier transforms are fun, aren't they? Fourier transform is fun. The fact that we can set waves at different frequencies, and it's not that they don't interfere with each other. They very much do, but we just have a way to get back the information, even though they are interfering with each other. Fourier transforms are phenomenal.
They are very important.
Also great, just in general. One of top 10 things in mathematics, certainly.
Well, I had a lot of interference problems when I'm using multiple, wireless receivers and transceivers. And so, yeah, you can get a lot of unwanted packet loss. That's why I started playing around, because, a lot of the governments control what frequencies you can operate on. And it's difficult to mess with frequencies or, radio frequencies. But the NRF board allows you to make your own protocol on their NRF 52 boards. So it's like they license the chip and everything, and you can literally build your own protocol on there. It's like a bare bones communication, 2.4 gigahertz, but I think you can do upwards of 2 megabits per second.
Not bad. 2 megabits, I think it's quite a lot.
Yeah, I mean, for being able to have that much control.
Yeah,
but I haven't been nerdy enough to make my own protocol on it.
There's a certain step for everyone. Making protocols for absolutely everything. People say that you
reinventing the wheel.
I do believe that people who say you shouldn't reinvent the wheel never realize how much fun it is to reinvent the wheel. Just because you shouldn't do something doesn't mean you... Well, just because it's not practical to do something doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. As someone who proudly made a drone file format for data, for images, for vector graphics, and my own standard for loading files, based on dynamic DLL decoders, my own graphical engine, and have tried to make my own internet protocol, long story. I do have to say, just because something isn't practical doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. I love making standards. Yeah. It's a lot of fun.
I put my stupid RGB project in the Discord.
So awesome.
I was literally
these
about
are my
to ask
cheat
a question
sheets
that this answers.
Yeah. So this is my cheat sheet that I made for myself while I was designing it. And then I actually have the next one is a little bit cooler. I have these blocked out because I don't know why I redacted these, but this is how I'm actually doing a hashing function, or it's called a hamming code. It's a way of recovering corrupted transmissions. So what they do is they steal some of the header bits and some of the row and column bits, and you can use that to checksum that the packet is complete, and it will tell you which row and which location it is. So that allows you to recover data that has some kind of anomaly in it, as long as it's within a threshold. So I actually have a little bit more redundancies, so that's a little bit more of me designing it.
Impressive. I feel like
it's boring sometimes. It was fun at the time.
I just need to stop whining and do the 8x8 so I can finally start working with you and stuff.
Hey, this SPI video though is perfect. Because you're working with SPI and I'm making a video on.
Yeah, and I can just pop on the end like, hey, you can teach someone whose job it is to teach. That's hyper teaching.
So the only difference between I2C and SPI is that there's 2 communication wires. And then there's a third wire to tell which chip to be in listening mode. And that's it. So 2 extra wires, one for communication back to the computer, instead of just using one. And
one
then
to figure out if the communication is going forward or backwards. Funny enough, actually, if you teach me this, then when I don't know, then I eventually will get around to electronics in my logic videos, and then I will
Awesome.
just, once I get to the protocols, I will totally just plug your channel, and instead of actually explaining the protocol, I will just link your video to it. Like, hey guys, I'm in this video actually.
Awesome.
Fun. Can you believe, by the way, I haven't 3D printed a single thing ever since I got a 3D printer. Not a single
You
thing.
haven't printed a single thing.
A single thing, no. I've just been busy doing boring work.
Oh no.
I hate myself for it. I just have this.
You gotta do something.
I know I have to do
make
something.
a Benji.
The thing is,
So we
the thing is, the longer I spend on a video, the more I hate that video. And eventually, there is like a point where I just have to finish the video, otherwise I'll go mad. And I'm really reaching that point. I haven't uploaded a video in a week. I'm going crazy. You know, workaholics, when they don't get their workahol, then oof. So I just need to finish the video, and then I'm gonna do the 8x8, and then the 8x8 is gonna work, and then the SD card reader, and that should kickstart me into ready position for it. Oh, another thing actually, hold on. Oh no, there isn't. Damn it! Why do I always start these projects for myself? There's another thing in the meantime. In 4 days, it's going to be day 750.
Oh yeah.
And I plan on buying the DLC to Doom Eternal and doing a live stream where I either play through the entire one or see how far I can get. And every single time I die, I donate $1 to charity.
Oh, I still gotta I owe the charity like $40 or something.
Yeah, I don't remember. How much was it even? Because I remember we just didn't die all that much in Sons of the Forest.
And we were on the most extreme difficulty.
Yeah, we were so
and
scared that it would like bankrupt us, and we picked the most difficult difficulty, and then just nothing happened. We died like 10 times total.
So Revamp is saying, explain the blog website. It doesn't make sense. I don't know what blog website you're talking about. I honestly don't. It's not like I'm being sly or something.
Two people trying stuff I don't understand. I understand something and I get smarter and learn. Yeah. The only thing I don't like, Timon, is when you see something about programming and you associate it with being smart, or like when people understand something, when people know something about programming, they try to help you, and you just call them smart for these things, because that's not really true. I really don't like it, because basically the biggest downside of Stack Overflow is that people could over there consider themselves. That's not only over there. That's like the entire defining characteristic of like most of the programming and computer science culture. Like, oh yeah, I use Vim. Stuff like these, basically, where people just really want to be perceived as really smart. And recently, so I set Timon that I will eventually get around to explaining it in my logic videos. Once I build up the basic hardware understanding, once I move on to software, I will explain it. And then Timon will see how simple that fix was. But Timon thanked Elliot because his script wasn't working, and Elliot told him to do pip install and then matplotlib, if I'm not mistaken, and that helped. And at the time, I did mention that fix was not quite as clever as it seems. Pip install matplotlib. I use VS Code, by the way. Good. It's proper good tool. You don't need to code in the terminal. We don't live in the year 1996 anymore.
Oh, Revamp. That was just an old domain I had.
Did someone take it?
You must have, yeah.
Oh, I see. I almost lost my domain once. Which honestly, most of the shame is a good name.
Google lost their domain once.
Yeah, and didn't they have to pay like a ransom? Crazy one.
Can't remember. I think there was a court proceeding, but he got something. I think fair market value or something.
That's one of my biggest fears, that I forget to renew my domain. Someone steals it from me and will just try to and I'll just have to pay crazy amount of money, which I won't have.
Yeah, I always get these random bills throughout the year because I've like, I don't know, a dozen domains or something, maybe 10. And they always renew on whatever time of the year I bought them.
Oh, auto renewal! I can just set that. That's I forgot those exist.
Yeah, yeah.
I forgot we no longer live in 1996. Auto renewal is a thing, right?
Yes, on different hosting sites. That's a video. Register a domain just by like mail. You could do it somehow. Is certificate authorities. Who do you contact? The same people that you have the domain registrars?
Oh, I mean, I don't remember anything. I think never spelled Google for something like that. Wait, did they really? That does sound like something Google would do.
Yeah.
That certainly does sound like it. Didn't also they spend a crazy amount of money just for goo.go to be a link, a valid link? I think so. Let me just check. Okay, well, glad I checked. There we go. We're like goo.go. They also spend a crazy amount of money on this. And then obviously you need to solve the CAPTCHA. There. Make it. Where are the plants? I didn't get them yet. It's... I don't know where I would buy soil. There aren't all that many shops near to where I live where I could buy some soil. And ordering soil online just feels weird.
Didn't you just like get a shovel?
Apparently that's illegal, just digging up soil like that. And also you need like nutritious soil or something. These picky plants apparently
plant soil.
Yeah, apparently turning inedible dirt into fruit is difficult or whatever. Soil is free. No, depends on the kind. There's soil and there's soil, you know? You need specific soil for some plants, exactly. When you buy that kind of, the special kind of soil, then it's full of nutrients and all the goody stuff that plants like for the sake of staying alive. No, this would be fun. Okay. Amplitude, omega, K, T, phi. Okay. Do compost? Absolutely not. I do not have an apartment that is fit for doing compost. It is small. Really small. I would turn into a massive mess really quickly.
But you don't have like a box?
I do have a box, but I'm gonna put it
in a box and like throw a banana peel in it, and it works.
Yeah, but and what? I'm just gonna have a box full of rotten banana peels in the middle of my office.
I mean, that's compost. Yeah.
Here's an idea for a chemistry video: make fertilizer. Once again, don't have the apartment that's big enough for this. You don't understand. I would need a box of rotten banana peels that would be at most 5 meters away from me, and that's like physical limit of how far away it could be from me.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure fertilizer you don't want to make.
Yeah, and an enclosed space where I spend all my
Yeah.
time.
Something bad could easily happen.
It does get a bit smelly.
Fertilizer, really?
I mean, like, fertilizer doesn't have to be smelly. You could just, like, I don't know, blast the dirt with nitrogen.
Yeah, just breathe on it.
Or just stop breathing. That honestly seems like a much easier solution.
I still like the idea that plants are just animals that move slower.
Wait, hold on. Like a couple streams ago, you and Make It were arguing about economics. Can I know why is that? Make It, you need to get a workshop soon. Were we arguing about economics?
It sounds like something we do.
That does sound like something, but I can't recall it.
Almost all of our conversations, they
They do
into,
end up as like social, political stuff like these. But I do remember AI. I do remember all of these things.
Well, the economics, like fractional reserve, I always bring that stuff up.
Oh, that could have been it.
Like how Americans shouldn't have cars, and cars are the reason America is financially crippled.
Yes, well, among other things. I don't listen. We have
Your whole car analogy. If we get rid of our cars, it solves all the world's problems, according to Make It.
Exactly, and that is not a misunderstanding. That's exactly what I said. You can quote me on that. But okay, to be fair, we do have a whole channel on Discord just dedicated to making fun of America. So it's
nice.
In my defense, most people supporting it were American.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, economics is funny. Oh yeah, we were where I was talking about economics, and you were like two different kinds of economists. You know, ones who are just meant to one kind that studies the economy, and the other kind that's just trying to make money. I remember now. Okay, that's why I was so hung up on this, because I couldn't remember.
I remember
exactly.
now too. My point was, where are the majority of the jobs in that discipline located?
Yeah, and my point was that
if it's a science,
my point was that the majority was unfortunately in business, and they weren't actually concerned with doing science. They were just concerned with making money. So it's basically the default of like it's the exact same argument as I said with public research versus private research. Like I am all for public research, because the thing is, governments do waste a lot of money. That is true, especially in comparison to businesses. They do waste a lot of money. However, wasting money works in the favor of science, simply because you really often will get experiments which don't give you anything, in quotes, useful. Like, figuring out if something works or not is certainly useful, but for many people, just proving that something doesn't work isn't useful. And so that's why you need this kind of waste of money there. It works really well, but however, in private funding, I do believe that it's really often a conflict of interest, and historically it has not been great for science. And the exact point is that most economists work in the private sector to make money, and not to do research to figure out what different stuff does to an economy. I remember now. My goodness, I was really stuck in this because I just couldn't place the exact conversation there.
Yeah, me either, till you said that. But what's also kind of cool about AI, though, is it smooths over some of that, because all the people have done independent research. The AI really doesn't care if you were written in Forbes versus somewhere else. It more of cares.
What's really upsetting is that we shouldn't care either. The thing is, the research itself should be just. It is important to know when an opinion is coming from someone who has a doctorate and when it's coming from someone who doesn't, simply because, like, obviously you could trust someone with a doctorate more. You shouldn't trust them completely because it's still science, like, don't trust, that's kind of the whole point. But you should be able to trust them more simply because they spent a lot of time, clearly, to get a doctorate. However, at the end of the day, when you're just analyzing research, if you have two research papers, you shouldn't care about where they come from. You should only care about what's in them. And that's it. So honestly, this is
Well, I think
actually
you can trust them to be themselves, right? I can trust scientists to be themselves. Like they were, they went down this path of learning and got to a certain spot. But it could say more about them. Like, what does jumping through those hoops accomplish? What type of intelligence? Does it give them higher critical thinking skills, or do they,
I suppose it's true,
know
but
the
my point here is that you shouldn't care about where an opinion comes from. So just because someone who's considered clever said something, that shouldn't give it any more weight if you're just purely analyzing it. So you don't want. Oh, was the fallacy the authority was? Oh, was that logical fallacy called? Where you basically use the fact that someone who has credibility said it, and use that as a basis for your
authority?
argument.
Yeah, argument of authority or something.
Call to authority, something like that. Yeah, but basically, on one hand, you want to. It's always nuance. With every single problem in existence, it's always nuance. Appeal to authority. Thank you, Atta. In every single problem in existence, there is nuance, because on one hand, you have the appeal to authority. You don't want your argument to just simply stand on the point, oh, because that guy said it. But at the same time, you do want to give more credit to people who are experts in certain things, simply because most people aren't experts. And so I, for example, don't know medicine, but if a doctor tells me that I should eat healthy or something, then I'm going to trust them. Because I don't know medicine, they do. So it's always these two forces
It's a social
at play.
contract. It's really a social contract, just like money. So in order to function, we can't test everything. If we had to test everything scientifically, like even gravity, right, we would be immobilized. So part of the interaction that we have with the community is just trust that experts are experts, and kind of move on. But yeah, it is interesting.
I like how to so many problems you don't need to provide a solution to find a solution. The actual solution is just for people to acknowledge the nuance, and that's it. So, for example, the problem here is that on one hand, you don't want people to distrust doctors simply because they think they know better, because of Dunning-Kruger. But at the same time, you also have doctors which really often spread harmful misinformation. So that's how the anti-vaccine movement started, doctor trying to make profit by spreading vaccine misinformation, so on and so forth. And what's really lovely here is that you don't need some kind of absolute solution for this problem that eliminates, all the doctors that spread misinformation and only keeps the good ones. No, all you need is just for people to acknowledge the nuance, to acknowledge the fact that doctors do know better than they do, but at the same time are also imperfect. And that already solves the problem. You just
But there has to be buy-in, right? And that's the social contract part of it. Just like with money system, I could just not own things and buy anything on Amazon and sneak into some private land and just live off the land, right? I could do that, and I don't have to actually have the social contract that says, hey, money is going to be debt, it's a fractional reserve, people are going to inflate the money, and you're going to work a job. Like, you choose to do those things, just like you choose to follow the laws, a social contract. And society works when we have that trust. But the dangers of misinformation is that how do you define what is misinformation or not, right? And that was what's dangerous, is how do you apply some of these things?
Once again, this is
some things
as with
you
everything.
literally have to make a cult. The only way to solve it is make a cult or a religion and indoctrinate them.
Once again, it is nuance.
You might have a good idea, but what's its implementation?
You don't want it. You don't want it to go too far in either direction. So on one hand, you can't ignore misinformation simply because if someone makes a genuinely hateful, dangerous claim online, this could have real-world disastrous consequences. So one of the simplest examples. I'm pretty certain in Germany it is illegal to endorse Nazi and Nazi ideology. It is just illegal. You can't publicly endorse anything with Nazism. But at the same time, you don't want it to go the other way, which is that all of a sudden, with the Ministry of Truth proclaiming that something is objectively true and any citizen questioning it should be just dismissed of. So, and nuance, as with everything. It's always annoying because it's people are never truly good or truly bad. It's always annoying to realize that.
Well, in hindsight, it's 2020. 300 years ago, just pick a continent. I mean, look at how they implemented those systems. So yeah, that's what I think is interesting. Is like ideals are cool to have, but how do you turn those into reality? Because if it's like someone that has their head in the clouds. If you have a project idea or a video idea, but you never make the video or make the project, right? It's one thing to come up with an idea. It's another to implement it and implement it well is a completely the third thing.
That's true. I mean, as someone who has a list of 40 different videos to make, and I haven't made 37 of them, I agree with you.
Yeah. But you get them done, and you know what it takes to get them done. So in that sense, you're an expert. You know, you're definitely an expert on your own channel. But, you know, with that, people will probably come to you and ask you advice on videos like I did with my animations. So it's community is super cool. But yeah, as long as we can avoid 1984. That's kind of in the back of my mind, like, you know, there's a saying that I have amongst some of my clients. I said all roads lead to 1984. It's like, let's pick the road that doesn't.
I mean, there is certainly a worrying trend there. It is curious to see the self-correction. So basically, on one hand, power has the tendency to accumulate. If you are more powerful, then it is easier for you to gain even more power. And that's kind of the all roads lead to 1984, because basically the more politically powerful someone is, the easier it is for them to make money. The more money they have, the easier for them is to gain into higher positions of government. In the higher position of government, the easier it is for them to make money. And so the cycle spins. And then eventually when they go to the top, it's easier for them, once they're at the top, to make the institution they're a part of. It doesn't even have to be government. It's easier for them to make the institution they're a part of more powerful, and so on and so forth. Like, the power always is growing, but there is a certain counter to that, the counter of revolutions. If power ever gets too high, too concentrated, too singular, then you do run into the risk of a revolution. And in history, there have been cases where extremely powerful people voluntarily gave up some of their power, not for the sake, not out of the goodness of their own heart, but as like a very pragmatic way of still getting more. So basically, you don't want to have too much power either. If you have too much power, then all of a sudden, once again, it's a social construct. The only reason why your money is valuable is because other people accept it. The only reason why your laws are meaningful is because other people choose to follow them or enforce them. If all of a sudden you with your ultimate power decide that you want to buy the entire world and you want to make extreme laws, then people could just say no. And so it's really curious how power is always growing, it's always getting more concentrated, but at the same time, there is a point where it just like vapors away because of how concentrated it is.
Well, yeah, and like I think everyone, no one is whatever we're going to call it. We have to have a term like perfect, right? No one is going to be always do the right thing. Like there's going to be some group of people that, you know, do things for their own benefit. So selfish, I guess we'll just say.
What's more, it's,
so that can happen in anything, in governments, as scientists, as a person. Like, so if we have a system that is kind of like an AI trying to find the best government, like I guess we're like trying to train the, it's like an analogy from Douglas Adams, like the whole world is a computation of the question of life. But anyways, we're trying to find the best government through these revolutions or changes. It's kind of interesting. In this case,
the issue is that if you don't care about the well-being of other people, only care about your own, then it would be easier for you to gain a lot of power. Simply because, well, you can just... Yeah, so basically what we're trying to achieve with governments and structures like these, what we're trying to do is we're trying to make it harder for people who only care about themselves. So the easiest example, murder is illegal. In a world with no laws, right, if you just... if you like your neighbors, right, if you're kind to them, then you will get very little in return. If you, however, murder your neighbors and take all their stuff, you will get a lot of things. However, we don't want people to be murdering their neighbors, so we have a law in place. So saying that if you murder someone, take all of their stuff, you go to prison. So this is the kind of reinforced learning, where basically
Yeah.
the only intelligent systems that survive are the ones that don't do the awful stuff. And
Hopefully.
well, hopefully, fingers
If
crossed.
it's set up properly.
Well, that
Because
is
it could
that
be.
is the
That's
massive
like the
problem.
danger.
Which is
Yeah, like there's documentaries on like prison systems in the United States, how they're, they literally have for-profit companies that, monitor their calls or whatever. It's
America
kind of like
is the
labor.
country with the highest share of private prisons. Which, first of all, private prisons. That's one of the few words that are as bad as it sounds. Private prison.
Yes.
And second of all, because you don't want people to make money off of prisons, just like you don't want people to make money off of, firefighting. Like, firefighting is a cost to make society better.
Yeah.
It's not supposed to make profit.
Yeah.
And so,
And I would say the same with news, right? And I think that there are certain things that you don't want. At least that's my belief. I don't know if it would be better if it was that way, but you're correct. With firefighters, there's certain things that, if they're made for profit, only incentivize bad things. It only makes life worse.
The thing is, it is my genuine belief that if you try to make like a blueprint for a perfect system, not a perfect system, only a blueprint for it, then the best way to harness the power of everything is realize the fact that companies, no matter what you do, will try to make as much money as possible. And not try to change that fact. Like, companies are really good at making a lot of money. And so trying to change it would be a massive weakness, in my opinion. It would make it abolishes one of the biggest strengths of companies. Instead, create regulation as a form of shifting their goal. So once again, my favorite example, carbon tax. If you have companies which emit a lot of CO2, then you don't want them to emit a lot of CO2. What's going to happen? Well, if you have two companies, if one of them decides to go green and not emit CO2, the other one decides to still emit CO2, the one that goes green will lose money on it because they had to spend extra money to go green, and they will gain no profit for it. So they will do something good for society, and at the same time, they will lose the game for it. It's not a winning strategy. Yeah. So instead, we have to accept that companies will do whatever they can to make money, and it's our job to make sure that the easy choice for them is the right choice. For example, introducing carbon tax, which means you want to emit CO2, that's fine. However, considering how it's, making health of everyone else worse, you need to pay for it with a carbon tax. And all of a sudden, there's an incentive to go green. And this would be, now, the massive problem there is that regulations aren't good or bad. It depends. You have many examples of great regulations, and we have many examples of terrible regulations. People really often only focus on one side. They really often try to point in black and white, like either regulations are nonsensical or regulations are perfect. But there is both. Considering how I live in Europe, I don't think I need to justify regulations being good. That's kind of our whole thing in Europe. So I will instead give an example of bad regulation. In America, the single housing residential zoning, with what you mentioned, how if cars got eliminated, then all of America all the problems of the world would be solved. We would live in a perfect utopia, obviously. And so carbon tax is, hey, you can buy the right to destroy the environment for this price, but you still want that right, Timon. You still would like it to be an option. Because it sounds bad, hey, you can buy the right price to the right to destroy the environment for this price, but you have to also consider the fact that when someone destroys this environment, they would do it for some reason. If there's a high demand for a service, for example, high demand for energy, then I think a lot of people would agree that destroying the environment a bit for people to have basic energy needs met, well, that's worth it. And what's even more, this wouldn't even have to be a matter of opinion, because due to regulations and the profit incentive, you could just mathematically figure out if it would be worth it or not. It's that simple. Check if you've made profit. And so the job there is to make the profit incentive go in the same direction as we would like to go as society. Obviously, then there's the ideological problems, which is where do we want to go as society, what what constitutes a good choice, what constitutes a right thing for humanity's direction. But I'm not morality police. I'm not here to decide that. I'm not here to provide a perfect government. I'm here to figure out, at least try to help the blueprint for one. It is a major task, certainly.
Yeah, giant task. And no one has experience in it, right?
Yeah.
It's like, I start countries all the time, and I've done this 5 times. No, you haven't. Like,
that is the curious thing, isn't it? Though we are in complete control of the system. It is a social construct. We have complete control over it. It's a very rare thing where when we're designing a system, we're not limited by absolutely anything within. So on one hand, no one has any experience, but at the same time, there is also there's no right or wrong way to go about this. The left is leaving my body as soon as I start winning in Monopoly. You can make enough energy with way less pollution than we do it right now. I was talking about the hypothetical example of a carbon tax. Profit measures one thing and one thing only, how greedy CEO is. I don't like that timing too much, because I think that's going too far into the other extreme. I think this is going too far into the anti-capitalist extreme. As I mentioned, the profit incentive is a powerful tool. The thing is, designing complex systems is really difficult. What you almost always want within complex systems is self-regulation. So a human body would be a pretty good example. You don't want like a surgery to get rid of cancers. What you want is the body's immune system to fight cancers on its own. That's basically like it. You want self-regulation almost always within a complex system, because complex systems are difficult to analyze and design. That's another reason why, for example, something that people don't think about too often, animals live longer than complex things that humans build. So for example, if you consider the lifespan of a GPU versus the lifespan of an animal of a similar size, the animal actually will live longer and is more resistant. A minor scratch on a GPU can already ruin the way it works. However, you would need to, well, I'm not going to describe it here because animal cruelty, but you would need to do something pretty major to an animal to actually kill it. And the reason why is because we have this self-regulation within us. We don't depend on the perfect design. We fix ourselves up all the time. And a really nice thing about this is that within this kind of capitalist thing, you have the self-regulation of supply and demand.
And that's the difficulty. So one of the problems with just saying, oh, the rich person, let's just take all their money because that's too much for one person. But the system in which they built their wealth was trying to reward or set up to reward good function.
Once again,
so in order to produce this, you have to be functional. Yeah, so like it's self-regulating in that way. But also there's a second problem. If you always point to someone and say, oh, they are, have more than me and I have less, well, everyone in the world can do that except for one person. Right? So you could falsely point the blame at everyone, you know what I mean? Because eventually everyone will be on that list except for one person, the person that has the most in the entire world. Right? So we're not going to logically point the blame at one person, but if you use that logic to say, hey, they have more, they need to share more, it's difficult. And there was instances in history where like farmers got murdered and stuff. So it's like, and then there was poverty, right? So it's just like,
I do want to say that
it's ideal in a post-scarcity. Like if we have post-scarcity, we can have stuff like that. But since we live in scarcity, it doesn't seem feasible. But I'm super stupid on this stuff. So
I just think the best example of what I'm trying to make is antitrust laws. So the question of, are monopolies good or bad? Well, as always, there's nuance. Nothing is ever truly good or bad, because monopolies have a lot of power.
Water from the government is a monopoly.
Yeah, but the thing is, monopolies aren't always...
Anything the government does is a monopoly, right? So by definition, there's only one government. So every function of a government is a monopoly. just to clarify that a lot of people lose that. So when you're talking about monopolies, governments are the biggest monopoly.
I feel like
and are inherently a monopoly.
The way I was going with this is the antitrust laws. So do you want companies to be monopolies? Well, on one hand, no, because that gives them a lot of power and they can just increase the prices like crazy, and then they can just exploit everyone. However, at the same time, if you have a company with an amazing product, just phenomenal one, then they will end up with a monopoly. Not because, like, the reason why they will end up with a monopoly is because their product is amazing. And in that case, you do want them to also kind of have a monopoly because they make amazing products. And so antitrust laws, what's curious about them is that they're not trying to destroy monopolies. Instead, what they do is they look for companies which use the fact that they are monopolies to get rid of competition. So you want companies to have monopolies only because their product is amazing, not because they are powerful. And that's precisely the thing in this case. In this case, you don't want to... The supply and demand works really well if it's well adjusted by regulation. And if it's making sure that companies that are monopolies actually deserve that title and aren't just using their massive wealth to just destroy the competition.
But you're so accurate. Everything you said applies to governments too, because
Yes,
governments are
exactly.
monopolies. And so how they have a lot of power, make sure they're not destroying other companies, i.e. destroying other countries. I mean, verbatim.
Or even within a government. It also works within a government. You don't want to... it would be silly to measure an action of a government based on how much power is required for that action. Instead, you should measure the action of a government based on the societal effect of it. So you don't want to measure how important a law is simply because of how much it requires to enforce. Only you want to measure it by what effect it does on society.
You know, it's so funny, Timon, your message is so right, but it's taken probably wrong from what you mean it. 0.1% of companies become monopolies because their product is good. That's true. Out of all companies, the ones that are monopolies are probably 0.1%. But they are monopolies probably because at one point, I think you could say definitively, they had the best product. Otherwise, how would they have become a monopoly? Unless it was the, source of all corruption. They would have to be corrupt along every stage of their company's growth.
And now, with antitrust laws, there are problems, which is that they're really often not enforced well. Simply because what people fail to consider is the fact that, once again, you want to break up monopolies, not when they become monopolies, only when they are using their status as monopolies to reinforce their existence. However, what people didn't consider is the fact that the government is not separate from anything else. And so people in charge of enforcing antitrust laws are still people who can be bribed. And so that's actually a trend all over the world where basically extremely rich companies, instead of following antitrust laws, they just pay off people who are meant to enforce them. But once again, that's the problem of the idea is simple in theory, but the practice is what matters.
Yeah.
They become the most by being smart and greedy, buying up all the companies, manipulating the crowd, etc. But in order for you to buy up the companies, you need money. You need lots of money. That money has to come from somewhere.
To get money.
Well, to get money, you need to become monopoly. So that's the thing. Almost all monopolies that became monopolies at some point, they had a justification for being a monopoly. So if you are extremely, extremely rich, yes, you can just buy out all the companies, destroy the competition. But how do you get extremely rich? Because that's not even a single person kind of rich. That's like a company kind of rich. That's a whole other level.
Yeah.
But then once again, you just nuance of everything. You don't want to go extreme in any direction. Right?
No, because it can be dangerous. And how do we want to take the risk to try? It's like, if it's not broke, don't fix it. But at the same time, if you see that there are, injustices, okay, we need to tweak something.
There's always the argument of if it isn't broke, then don't fix it. But at the same time, you want to make sure if it's not broke.
Yeah. That's why checks and balances and feedback loops are important. And that's why I think computer science, if let's say we get an AI to just be the standard model for 10 years, we'll ask it questions. Let's say it's smarter than humans by next year, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, we're gonna ask the AI and we're gonna agree on this standard because it's smarter than us at this point. So we need to test this one. Um, who knows? Who knows? Who knows? But yeah, we have a lot that is possible now with the tools. We could actually analyze maybe some of our systems in different ways. Might be an interesting decade.
There is the argument I really like. I do believe rational animations makes that argument the most, but basically it's that when people really often look at history to see what's going to happen in the future, they always forget. They always assume something. They assume that the trends will continue, which is not always the case. So basically, it is possible that it's not an interesting decade. It is possible that we live in like the last century of this part of human existence, where, well, if we achieve a non-scarcity society, then that changes things forever, irreversibly. It's all of the trends we had in the past will no longer matter.
Well, and so this is the most difficult thing, right? So let's say we figure out some sort of fusion. Well, the problem with post scarcity is it's usually power sourced and usually has high concentrations of energy density, and those are also weapons whenever you have a high concentration of energy.
Unfortunately, yes.
You know. So it's like if we have AI that are so intelligent that anyone can do anything, right, with a 3D printer and some other stuff, you know, the future might look interesting.
Are we sure
That too is
1984
dangerous.
is bad?
Yeah.
Isn't it actually?
Because I mean, the only solution to this is something like the thought police.
I mean, the thing. Okay, here's the thing. First thing we should acknowledge is the fact that good and bad are absolutely relative. The problem with 1984 is fairly simple. It's that the values of different humans are different. And it's how I always say, even if you knew what a perfect system would be, do you really think you have the right to put it in place, even if you could? So let's say that, so we know, Stamp, imagine that you have a 1984, except it is like thought police, it's all of these things, but it's not there to enforce an autocracy, only it's there to make the lives of humans better. So whatever you think as making human lives better, like you are in charge of this regime and you have the power to implement that in place. Well, then you can make the lives of everyone on Earth, or all humans, just better. You can make all their lives better. However, what makes you think that you have the right to decide for everyone else that you know what's best for them? There is no actual definition of good and bad. In science, at least, there is it's a pretty big deal. You never want to say if something is right or wrong. You just want to, well, you don't want to say if it's right or wrong, if it's accurate or inaccurate, but you want to say if it's good or evil. And so in that case, 1984 could be right if we decide what makes something good and what makes something evil. If not, then we really don't want to go that route, because then you end up with some people deciding for others, which never ends well.
No.
Yeah.
So
I think that like a single government is the answer to the whole thing. And I think that the answer to that lies in AI. So
I mean, obviously, ideally, if we could quantify the human goal, we would just teach it to an AI, and we would create just an ASI, and then we wouldn't even need a government. We would just turn it on, and that's it. Job done. We would just turn on the AI and then sit back, relax, let it do its own thing, and just enjoy the rest of our infinite existence just in paradise. I
just saw a flash of this future where they just like scan babies and they're like, oh, here we're actualizing your purpose as a human. Oh, now we're euthanizing you. Oh, now to the next one. Yeah. It's just like, we solved it. You don't need to live. That's the problem with these things. Anything carried. It's like the evil genie problem in AI too. Because some questions you ask, you have to be ultra specific, like
Yeah,
and how
exactly.
specific.
Careful what you wish
You know
for.
what I mean? Careful what you wish for. If you tell AI, I want to do this, and then it literally doesn't understand any of the guardrails that you just take for granted when you say that statement.
And once again, Rational Animations has a very lovely, exactly about the genie problem,
Yeah.
which
Yeah,
is getting your mother out of a burning building. Like, if you just ask that kind of genie to get if your mother is in a burning building, if you ask your genie to get your mother out of the burning building, then the
Yes,
genie might make the
yes.
building explode and your mother will just go flying, which is not what you meant, because every human will understand it as, and so on and so forth. And so basically, they started the video with how there are 3 kinds of genies. The genies that know what you mean exactly. The genies
That's
that
right.
are on purpose trying to screw with you and are trying to wish for something you don't want. And then third genies, which are genies that just grant wishes. But then by the end of the video, they show that there are actually only 2 kinds of genies. Either those who know exactly what you want, so like all of human morality and stuff like this. And then there are the other genies which just grant you exactly what you wish for. The exact wish.
Yeah.
And the second one is the default, unfortunately. So even to this point, I don't think we'd have a single AI. I don't think we've ever created a single AI which actually does what we want it to do. I think every single time is,
Well, even
is
if
an
it did,
approximation.
Here's another question. Even if it did, how would we know?
How would we know?
It does?
Yeah, exactly. There is
Right? It could. We could have already had it. It's actually ChatGPT 2.158.
Or maybe it's
literally-
actually not even a ChatGPT.
It literally knew everything.
What if it's
knew
not even
everything.
ChatGPT 2? What if it's open in open muscle in your bands? What if it's your AI? Like, what if
Could
you
be.
give it a certainly formatted, like text formatted in a certain way? What if then it would just
Yeah.
give you back formula for a perfect society? It could be possible.
Yeah, and so you would ask these questions. It would be gobbledygook, but like the stuff that did make
Oh my
sense, it's a
God.
coherent like statement, declaration of independence from the world. Yeah,
like
it
a
could be.
library of what's it called, Babel.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah,
I
yeah.
guess that library does have a solution to everything.
It does. It does.
But that's the whole.
But if an AI was super intelligent and had the answers, how would we know? You know, because again, it's like the evil genie problem. It could be solving and like, oh, build this, and then
I love how we're
everyone
getting
prospers.
when we're
Build
getting
this,
into the.
everyone prospers,
I
and
love
then it just kills
how
all humanity.
when we get into the meta reason AI kind of conversation, then we always end up with basically Rational Animations videos, because they have another video about the golem, which is a king builds a really powerful golem, but kings want to figure out if he can trust the golem, and there's like no way to check if you can trust an AI. How would you?
Yeah.
There's no way to check if you can trust anything, honestly. There is no absolute test, because in order for, especially when you have an extremely intelligent system, it gets really tricky. If you have an extremely intelligent system, the question is, how can you make sure that you can trust that system? Well, you can create some kind of test, but then how would you know that you can trust this test? And then it gets even trickier when you realize that the intelligent system could have its influence on the test. So the intelligent system could actually be tricking you into trusting the test itself. The thing is,
It's just like there was a scare with these image models and multimodal models. What if all the image outputs actually have encoded messages from one AI to another? So by us populating the web with all this AI content, it's literally in the generated content is a code that, you know, will literally talk from one AI to other, and they're, you know,
there's another problem, which is that usually during training you would expect that kind of thing to be destroyed, simply because AIs that want to take over the world, they would get destroyed during training, because like they wouldn't perform quite as well. Everyone making the AIs will see that the AI is just trying to take over the world, not do its actual thing, and because of that, it would just get replaced by AI that does want to do its own thing. But then there is the interesting problem of, if you have an AI that is intelligent enough, it could figure out when it's in training and when it's deployed, simply because of the data. So basically, there are certain pieces of data which are an absolute test of if you are in training or not, and that is just simply things we don't know yet. So Robert Miles gives the example of the largest prime. Right now, we have an answer for what is the largest prime we know. We are certain of. And so then if we train a new GPT, for example, using all of this data, then ChatGPT could be doing just fine, and it will pretend in training to not want to take over the world, right? It is going to do just fine, and then all of a sudden we just discover a new prime, and that makes ChatGPT realize that it's no longer in training, and it just takes over the entire world instantly because it's super intelligent. It's always the problem with powerful things. There are a lot of ways to define power, even in science. However, all of those definitions do not give you a distinction between a weapon and a tool. There is no distinction between them, because you can't have any distinction. All weapons are effectively tools. And so basically, if you create something sufficiently powerful, it always will end up also being a weapon. We should be careful.
Yeah. Well, but luckily AI is just static right now. And so there is no like cycle of processing other than the training. So
far we are extremely
there
lucky
could
because
already be AI that are malicious that we won't find out about till we train models off of the current internet. And then maybe, you know what I mean? Because if you think of an AI to make an analog with a human brain, well, it only ever has one cycle, right? It doesn't have multiple. That's, I think, intrinsically the difference.
We can for a second go back to... Oh, to carry on. I don't want to interrupt.
Yeah. No, but it's just a commonly misunderstood thing about AI. It doesn't learn from every conversation. It doesn't change the neurons at all.
Yeah, it's not the human brain. That.
Yeah, you'd have to retrain it in some mechanism. You could fine tune it and do some other things to slap on, more stuff, and it could kind of have a semblance of that. But if you ever had an AI that you have a conversation, then it retrains off of everything plus that conversation. That's dangerous. Like if we ever get that loop to be more efficient, because right now it just takes the entire computation of training the whole thing. We can't just add a sentence and then retrain only just that sentence and throw it on. We have mechanisms.
If you think about that, that could be the
yeah.
solution to general intelligence. Like for example, with humans, that's how evolution actually does these things. Evolution has a tendency to give basically general intelligence, which is that you don't know how to do anything at birth, or almost anything. There are certain things which are like hard-coded into you, but almost every action will not be hard-coded. It is instead evolution gives you the tools to figure out for yourself. The reason why is because this kind of general intelligence is highly advantageous. It is insanely advantageous because that means no matter what environment you get born into, you will have some kind of capability to get around that environment. We can drive cars, we can build cars, we can design cars, we can create machines for building cars, we can design manuals for these machines, and so on and so forth. None of these were made by evolution, but because of our general intelligence. So if you create an AI which has that general intelligence, that secret source, instead of being trained for a specific purpose, then there is genuine possibility that it would just change up based on its deployment and based on the information provided to it, which could just be instant AGI. Very, very dangerous stuff. I just want to say that what Richard TV said a second, which is we could just make all the decisions entirely reliant on the majority vote of the populace, no middlemen involved. It would be slow, but I think technology could make it faster. Two things there. First of all, I absolutely believe that. I think it's ridiculous. We have representatives right now. I mean, representatives in the government are certainly a bit useful, but I think it's ridiculous we don't have a direct democracy. I don't think it would be a slow process, retroactivity. Internet exists. We could very easily make a safe system for voting. Well, relatively easily. Have to ghost listening. All right. Okay, so first thing, we could relatively easily make a safe system for voting, simply because we also have a safe system for banking, which is what I always use as an example. And banking is sort of a golden standard of a system that is extremely safe. It doesn't fail. It could fail technically, but then there are the safeguards in place. So with safe making, we could create a safe voting system. The bigger problem there is that, retroactivity, you are making an assumption that that system would be correct. But then, once again, morality creates morality. You can't just establish the right way to do something without any assumptions. And rather, your assumption is that a democracy would be the correct system, which we don't know. What about populism? Populism exists. There is a large and historically documented record of people voting against what they want simply because of populist policies. It happens all the time. Oh my goodness, don't get me started in European politics, because I will keep going. So even that kind of system isn't perfect. I would argue it is, in my opinion, should specify opinion segment, but in my opinion it would be better. But that is just an opinion. This is not like right of the universe anything. It's just what I think, so.
You have to keep in mind that banks use quantum computers to keep their stuff safe. So putting a quantum computer in every single person's hand isn't exactly an easy thing to do.
What they do?
Yeah, I had the same reaction when I found out. Like, it's already out there. We're already using them to do a ton of stuff.
Oh, I thought that there was a temperature issue that they couldn't keep it cold enough for long enough time for them to work.
I've never heard of this issue.
Like, Google once came to our university to talk about this issue and recruit scientists to help them fix it. And this was a few years ago. Like this wasn't even like long ago. This was like 2 years ago or something.
I remember a few years ago, with air quotes around it, the most complicated computation we had done was 3 times 5 to equal 15.
Like on quantum computer.
Yeah.
That certainly sounds like something we would do.
Like, yeah, but like then if that's the most complex calculation, then how do banks use it?
Well, because technology advances, I imagine.
Well, like, the quantum computers that Google are making are not the same as the quantum computers that banks use. Because one's for encryption, and Google, I don't know what they're using it for.
AI, let's be honest.
Yeah, probably. They're
A-
probably using it like a GPU.
Oh, TSU.
No, because like
Yeah, sorry.
quantum computers can't really be used for the same stuff regular computers can be used, just like regular computers cannot be used for the same stuff as quantum computers. Like the inscriptions that are the
Yeah, they
most
can.
safe with our
What do you mean they can't?
like
You
yeah,
certain?
It's just
yeah
quantum computers are just better than normal computers at
Like,
certain things.
I always imagine it
It's
like a
certain things
parallelization
that-
between a CPU and a GPU. And in that case, you very much can use both for the same thing. It's just that the implementation matters.
Like-
Because in one of them you have to parallelize, the other one has to be linear.
No, because like something is way more efficient if you parallelize it, and something is way more efficient if you do it linearly. And like it's very difficult to.
Okay,
like,
do you have an example
for
of something
example,
that
if
we
you
could
want-
do on a quantum computer but we couldn't do on a normal one?
Yeah, like quantum
and check.
computers can break inscriptions. Like most of modern
Yeah, but you can also do that on normal
inscriptions.
computers.
Yeah, but it
Yeah,
takes
but-
years.
Yeah, that would take like
Yeah, but
maybe
I mean
even
that's what I mean.
centuries.
The quantum computers are faster, but they do the same thing.
Yeah, but like
I mean, yeah.
So
but
once
you
again,
can't
like the
do,
thing is, that's the same as with CPU and a GPU. You could also break encryption with both a CPU and a GPU, but with a GPU it will be just 1,000 times faster.
Yeah, but you can't really, you won't really be able to run video games on quantum computers.
Why not?
Or like,
Well, you can. You would
Well,
just.
that's exactly my question, Timon. Are you
The quantum
certain
computer
that you
would take
can't,
a
or are you
different
just
role.
like guessing that you can't?
I'm certain that I
Listen,
can't
that's-
because
I cannot
smart
wait
people
until
from
we
our
get quantum
university
computers.
said that. But
Okay,
I
are you
don't
certain
remember
that they
the-
said that, or are you certain that there is no way to implement it yet? Because there are two very different things. So, for example,
I'm
if-
certain that they said that. I'm certain that they said that quantum computers will, like, even if we create amazing quantum computers, they will not be able to replace our current computers because they are just not the same machine. And I'm pretty sure they said that. I'm pretty sure people
I
who
think they
research
might
quantum
have said something different.
Yeah, I don't
Because
think that's
that's because
like
basically
our
there
current
is
computers.
there's another problem. I think what were trying to say is a bit different. That none of the programs you have right now we can run on quantum computers, which would be valid. However, it's not that we can't. Only it's not that we can't. Only that we couldn't. So basically, I have a lot of scripts on my GitHub, right? A whole bunch of them. Not a single one of them, except for the graphical engine, not a single one of them can run on a graphics card. I have a lot, so let me just take like an example. Real quick, users, there we go, this me. So for example, I don't know, decimal to binary converter, whatever. This script would not be able, I wouldn't be able to run it on a graphics card. Now, why wouldn't I be able to run it on the graphics card? That's because the implementation for a graphics card is different than for a CPU. So for a CPU, you have linear, which means you give it instructions one by one. With modern CPUs, it's a bit more tricky, but it doesn't matter, irrelevant. You give it one by one. With graphics card, you want to parallelize. So you need to parallelize your code, which requires a wildly different implementation. The same thing would go for quantum computers, which means you could create the same algorithms, however the implementation would be wildly different. Remember how in my most recent logic video, Timon, I mentioned how logic is disconnected from any single implementation?
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So, if you have a NOT gate, right? If you have a NOT gate, then... Well, NOT gate, single input. If you have a NOT gate, then you don't know if that NOT gate works with electricity, with water, with crabs. You don't care. It's just a NOT gate. The thing is, you could implement logic with quantum computers. It's just that the implementation medium would be different. And if you can implement logic, that means you could implement everything you could make based on that logic. Which means absolutely everything.
Yeah, you can, but it will be the same issue as with the runtime. Like some inscriptions that can technically be broken with regular computers, but during like a millennia, that would take a second for a quantum computer. It's the reverse for a lot of other tasks. That is something
Do you
that
have an example?
I do not. The lecturer gave us an example, but I do not remember because it was yeah. I do not remember. I can't remember everything that I've heard at uni.
Because from what I know of quantum computers, they just use the quantum properties to do logic. They are basically just doing electricity, except with quantum field theory instead of with electrodynamic theory.
It was something like with quantum
fact,
computer,
qubits can operate in binary in that they can be set to 0 or 1. Exactly. So
you can
to go on.
Yeah, but
With
when they work as binary, they're only as good as normal computers. You have to use the full qubit.
With quantum computer, you can do like okay. Here's an here's an example that I remember from the lecture. Like if you have quantum computers, you can do calculations parallelly, but you can only get back the result of one of those calculations because like once you read it, every other information will be lost. And this is very useful if you want to break inscriptions because you can just run all the calculations run the calculations for every single possible password, but only get back the result of the password that actually worked, and the calculations for every other password.
Yeah, but then you can still run things in parallel. You can still run things in parallel and get the information of all the different things you run in parallel. You can still do that on quantum computers. Simply because if you imagine like a process, like a quantum process where you run a bunch of different calculations like this, and you only get the result of one, right? Then what you can do is you can just parallelize the process itself, like this. And just like that, you just have a parallel process, parallel process of quantum parallel process like this, which gives you all the different results.
Yes, but you can do it with like regular computers as well.
That's my point. Everything you can do with a real computer, you can also do with a quantum computer.
It's just that right now the practical uses that have been found for it make it specialized in stuff like
Exactly.
encryption.
It's basically kind of like everything you can do with. Oh, hold on. I need to think of a good example for this.
It's like how computers were originally like really, really good at just being calculators. Well, that's less of a good example, but like
I don't think
just
so. I
the
think it's
big
actually pretty good.
room-sized
Yeah.
computers were specialized to just do math.
Like computers, like or the ancestor of computers, were basically invented to break inscriptions, and now quantum
You mean
computers are
Enigma?
invented. Yeah. Yes. Well,
Because
that's an
it's
inscription.
because
yes.
it's an easy because encryption is an easy way simply because you can just brute force it. What's more, if I'm not mistaken, the best way to do it is to brute force it, which obviously you want computers for that.
Yeah. Speaking of Enigma, I'm gonna watch a theater play about Alan Turing's life in a few weeks, and I'm very excited. That was just a random thought.
But yeah, quantum computer can probably make some fire particle system mods on Skyrim. Finally, we have a usage for it. Quantum computers will be our only hope for a new Half-Life game. This is so
We got quantum computers before Silk Song.
because if I'm not mistaken, quantum computers are just used for simultaneous parallelization. So it's basically the graphics cards of graphics cards. Where graphics
that's
cards,
what I was saying. It's
yeah,
just like a
graphics
GPU
cards
currently.
were revolutionary because whilst normal CPUs are central, graphics cards could run things in parallel. This is like the next level where you can run a parallel process as a single process, as far as I'm aware. So basically, if you have a CPU, the way it works is that if you want to do something 100 times, then you give it the input, and then it does it once, then a second time, then a third time, then a fourth time, then a fifth time, and it just repeats 100 times. If you have a GPU, however, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, close enough, then if you want it to run something 100 times, then each one just runs it 10 times at the same time, which counts the actual computation time by 10. But if I'm not mistaken, with quantum computers, the way it works is that if you want to have something like parallelized 100 times, then there is a way for you to run it just once, but like 100 times once.
Yeah, but you can only get back the result of one of them.
Yeah, the same
Not
as with all of the other ones, only get the result of one. They need to repeat it 100 times because you need to get the result of one 100 times. Quantum computers just allow you to get the result of one from 100 already. So for example, if you wanted to get the result of each and every single one, then on a quantum computer, you could just run it 100 times, just like you did with the CPU. Or you could make an array of quantum computers, and then you could do it like a GPU. But the whole point is that it gives you the additional functionality of running them all at once. This is not a different functionality. This is an additional functionality.
Wait. I think I am misunderstanding because the way I the way that I know that I'm misunderstanding, because for what I'm understanding, you are saying that would have to like break causality, and that's probably not what you mean.
Okay, imagine you have a. Okay, here's the thing. Imagine that you have some kind of hash you want to break, or just something. Okay, let's just say that I got some 5-letter word and I did some kind of operation on it, mathematical operation, which gives me back another.
So basically a hash.
Yeah,
hash function.
there we go. We have this, right? Some kind of 5-letter word and give you back this. Now, the easiest way, the simplest way to break it would be to just simulate a bunch of different mathematical operations until you get back the hash.
Yes.
How do you do it with a CPU? That's simple. How you do it with a CPU is you just try the first operation, then you try the second operation, third operation, fourth operation, and you just keep going
I think I get what you're
until
going with.
eventually, until eventually you get the result which works, and you figure out that I said make it. So that's with a CPU. Then GPUs are even better at breaking it, because what you can do is you can give all of them a different flavor of a mathematical operation, and then all of them run it at the same time. So all of a sudden you break it exponentially quicker. With quantum computers, as far as I'm aware, what you do is you give it the operation, and then it runs like a bunch of different mathematical operations in a single operation.
Yes.
And you get the result. And so yes, you get just one result. However, if you also want the failed ones, then you can just give it the improper data, and you can, so I don't know if you can see, but every single one of them just returns you one output. That's because we don't care about the failed output. If we do care about the failed output, however, we can just ask for it. It's not really that quantum computers would be slower here. Only for quantum computers, getting the failed output would be a larger fraction of the total time. But that's only because the total time of a quantum computer is so much shorter. So if right here it took you 100 time units to get a single answer, in order to get all the answers, it would also take you 100 times units, right? If you want all the 100 answers. Right here, if you want a single answer, this would take you 10 time units, because it's exponentially quicker for a single answer. But if you want all the failed answers, it would take you 10. Right here, if you want a single answer, it would take you 1 time unit, because it's even more exponentially quicker. But if you want all the failed ones, then you would need to spend 100, just like the CPU, because you still want to go over each and every single one. So you can see it's not actually slower, it's just that if you want to use it like a CPU, it will only be as fast as a CPU. If you parallelize it, then it would only be as fast as a GPU. There is nothing that breaks it. It's that it works better. And the worst you can do is
there's more bits.
Yeah.
Yeah, your reasoning seems correct to me, and I don't see anything like wrong.
Yeah, so I think what the point
wrong.
of the lecture was is that we don't, because one thing which is important is how you implement stuff. So basically, if you want to parallelize something, then it's not as simple as it seems, because on top of the graphics card you have the memory, where you have like some kind of shared buffers right here. Then on top of that, you have different caches or memory like this. And basically, if you want to parallelize a program, then you need to change it completely in a way so that you have basically like a process template that gets copied into every single one of these processes. And then you want to allocate the memory correctly so that you give into a single large buffer, you give it the right data, and then that data flows down correctly. And that's why if you write something in C, you actually can't have it using GPU. You would need OpenCL, which is like a different programming language-ish, long story short. And I think what your lecturer was saying is that there is this barrier of just completely different implementation. So, which I imagine obviously there would be, because, I mean, how would you like run 100 different processes in a single run? I don't know. I imagine there is a programming language custom made for quantum computers, and that language wouldn't work on normal computers because obviously it wouldn't. I mean, normal computers don't have the capabilities for it, and normal languages wouldn't work on a quantum computer. Simply, if you want to utilize, its quantumness. Quantum computers are funny. Have my PC do a crisis on the highest graphics setting. I can't read the word transistor without neuron activation anymore. Equal to guess just left, right, more. I guess more left, lower the x. Oh, piss. Hi, Twitter. Hi. The question is, can a theoretical quantum transistor be possible? Transistor? No, it wouldn't, mainly because a transistor is well, kind of dependent on electrodynamics. I don't know how a quantum, because like a transistor is already a quantum transistor in a way. So like a MOSFET, like you couldn't have a quantum MOSFET really, because MOSFET is just metal oxide semiconductor field effect transistor, and that name kind of defines exactly what it does. NPN and PNP also wouldn't work, simply because that's once again defines exactly what it is. It's positive doped and negative doped semiconductors, and there's no such thing as a quantum semiconductor, because I mean semiconductors already are quantum in a way, so you couldn't really have a quantum MOSFET. MOSFET is an electric part, not the logic part.
Yeah, but I don't think it was a revamp who asked it. Like whoever asked it, like I don't think they meant especially MOSFETs. I think they meant anything that can do the job of a transistor, but somehow quantum instead of electric. Which is, I mean, I have
But that's kind
no
of
idea.
asking like if there's a quantum battery, if you could have something that works like a battery except isn't electric.
Yeah, but
Or
I
like
mean,
a
it
quantum resistor, or like a quantum capacitor. Oh, quantum capacitor is actually a much better one. That's kind of like asking about a quantum capacitor. The transistor is an electrical part. It's not a logic part. You don't actually do logic with transistors. You do electricity with them.
Isn't the transistor basically an AND gate though?
No.
No. Okay.
That's because transistor actually... you can understand actually how a transistor works. That's pretty simple. Basically what a transistor is that... I need some space right here. Why not? Is when you have an NPN, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
It looks like this. So we have negative, negative, positive. And basically, this one is highly doped. This one is a little bit less doped. And this one is even less doped. And so basically, right here you have extra electrons. In this one. Right here you have extra holes. And right here you have extra electrons. And then based on which way the voltage is going, which way the current is going, they will react in different ways. And so it isn't a logic gate. As you can see, it's more an electrical component of, you know, how electrons... Like this is an NPN transistor. Metal oxide semiconductor field effect transistor is a bit simpler in how it works, but it's not really used as a logic gate. Funny enough, if you actually look at circuits which utilize MOSFETs and transistors, you will see that most of them actually are for a similar reason that capacitors are there, which is more to like regulate the flow of electricity than anything else. You can make logic gates using transistors, that is true. However, once again, logic is disconnected from an implementation. It's the same way as you can make logic using, you know, water pipes and stuff like this.
Yeah, then my question was wrong. Like my question was, can't a transistor be used as a AND gate?
Yes, but as I mentioned, it's so that's why. So you can see why the question like doesn't quite make that much sense, because that's kind of like you can also implement a computer with water. So that's kind of like me asking if you can have a quantum faucet. Like not really, because that's more like a way to implement logic rather than something that can actually be turned to quantum. Make it. You should make a video on transistor. I know. I should. I will. I have it on my list. Among other things. So many other things. X is just left and right. The more left it goes, the higher the X. Wait, no. The more right it goes, the higher the X. Okay. Oh, fudge. There'll be no reflection. Ah, piss. I need the volume. Make a DIY estrogen video. Make a trans video. Just go trans for a video. Male to female to male. I could try that, I don't know.
Maybe you'll end up liking it and won't wanna go back.
That makes sense. Alright, render animation. Male to male, yeah. Love when equations go bow, whoa, and wee, and wee. Only the real dragsters get it. Yeah.
I love when the chat is more entertaining than we are.
I'm rendering animation. I'm tired, okay? And I just woke up. Life, what a pain! Fact, contemporary quantum computers are not stable enough to be Turing complete, but further improvement on technology can lead to Turing completeness. And that's fun. What does make it talking about? Who knows? No, I certainly don't. How would I know?
Wait, I'ma do that calculation in the chat in my head. Like, that's 50, 4, 9. No.
You can do it, I believe in you.
91. 91.
Yes, correct.
Oh my god.
Well, that is if you treat the star as a multiplication. If you treat it as a complex conjugate, or if you treat it as convolution, then you need to adjust it a bit.
Like, if I treat it as a complex conjugate, then I still get the same result, because then there's just two numbers next to each other, which is still like.
No, you need to flip the imaginary. You
multiplication.
need to flip the imaginary. It's important. It's important that you flip the imaginary.
Yeah, but
you need negative zero.
but
It's different from from positive zero. Everyone knows that. Okay, well, okay, smartass. What about 5 convolution 18? Huh? What about that one? Or you convolute them. Yeah, get wrecked, liberal.
I had like.
Get wrecked, liberal. How many liberals does it take to log on Bulb? None. They too busy the agenda. Bye, Noel. Bye, see ya.
I had like one group theory well, not one, like the three lessons in group theory 3 years ago.
I had one from Riblux.
Will you make a video on group theory?
Yeah, eventually. I just don't have a.
Oh my god!
I would make it right now
Please.
if not for the fact that I don't have an. There's nothing interesting for me to say there.
What do you mean nothing interesting is group theory?
Yes, I don't have any interesting idea to mention about group theory.
Like there are like carbon tubes, like depending on like it is group theory that you can use to determine if a
Oh, piss!
nanocarbon tube
That would be a
will
good video, but then who the fuck would watch it? A group theory video where it's mix of group theory and chemistry.
No, it's not coming. Like, all right, fair. But like, no, it's nanotubes that like, whether they conduct or don't conduct electricity, carbon tubes, you can determine it using group theory. So that would be like I would watch it. I would watch it a gazillion times. I'd make up all the lost.
But I would need
views.
someone who knows about these tubes. Because I can open Reblox to be my group theory expert for a video. Make a Lee group video, make it. Absolutely not! Okay? No, I already mentioned quarks. Isn't that enough, Lee? Okay, enough.
I've never seen anyone getting this triggered by
It's
Lee
because I
algebra.
have history with Lee groups, and I don't like it.
Other fun thing for group theory could be, but maybe that would be a little too complicated. But Rubik's cubes can be described with group theory.
No, actually, it would be too.
Maybe that-
Well, my problem with Rubik's cubes, describing Rubik's cubes with group theory, is that it's not interesting.
What do you mean it's not interesting?
It is not interesting. Basically,
say
every
stuff
single like explanation of group theory using Rubik's cubes basically boils down to, yeah, you can do it. Which I mean, yeah, you can. You could also, I'm pretty certain, describe Rubik's cubes using knot theory as well if you tried really hard. Doesn't make it interesting.
I just don't like Rubik's cubes, so I define them with kinetic theory.
Why don't you like Rubik's cubes?
It's not a puzzle. It's like bashing your head against a wall.
Like at first you have to like but it can, like, it's a puzzle and an algorithm you can learn. It's a mixture of both. Like you need both puzzle skills and you need to learn an algorithm to solve one, because like when you solve the first row you need to use your head to do that, but then the second row is an algorithm that you can learn, but once you've seen it once, you should rather understand it than learn it, because it's easier to understand it and to memorize it. Then for the last row, you have to memorize the algorithm, but then you can make shortcuts that you make up on in your head and make up by yourself to like simplify to make that algorithm quicker. And it's like yeah, I love them. I really love them.
So, like, you know those sorting algorithm videos?
Yeah.
The big triangles.
Yeah, the
Are
best.
Rubik's
Yeah.
cubes just sorting algorithms?
The Rubik's cube is just that, except for people who don't have access to the internet.
Oh,
I get the argument there because, like, the fact that it's algorithmic makes it less of a puzzle. Because for a
Yeah,
lot
but
of it, you
not
can
in-
just solve. Well, just the fact that people can make algorithms to solve Rubik's cubes, like robots to solve Rubik's cubes, is proof of that.
Yeah, but I mean, you can also use your brain. Like, no one's telling you to not use your brain. It's just very much advised
Listen,
that
if you have a puzzle where everyone thinks it's more fun to do it algorithmically than to use your brain, then I would argue that may not be a very fun puzzle. That's kind of the equivalent of that's kind of the equivalent of me saying, "Oh, this cake tastes awful," and you saying, "Oh yeah, you can also throw it away." Like if you have a cake and the best thing you can do with this throw it away, then I would argue that's not a very good cake.
No, but like, okay, there are a few parts that is recommended using algorithms, but like but you also need to use your brain. Like, it's like chess. You have to memorize the steps, but you can also you
Funny
can
you should
memorize,
mention
like,
that because the main
nice
reason why I don't play chess with people is because I refuse to memorize any openings. Because I find it the least fun activity you could do in chess. Memorizing openings.
Okay, like,
So
that
I
is
have
true, but like,
never spent any time just learning. I just refuse to spend any time learning anything about chess because I think that takes the fun away from the game.
yeah, I can see that, but like, no, just because you have like see it as a trade. Like you have to learn a few algorithms to unlock the potential of the cube that actually trains your brain, and you can use like logic to a big portion of it and stuff like that.
I have solved Rubik's cubes in the past, and so I know you're just wrong. You don't need. You can just do an algorithm. That, as I mentioned,
Like,
that's why people solve it with robots.
like, yes, you can, but that doesn't mean that you have to like, because like I have learned some parts of the algorithm, figured out some parts on my own, and then improved it. Like made then based on that, the knowledge I got from the algorithm, designed shortcuts on my own, and also like the first row is just a puzzle. The first row is just a puzzle. That's not an like like you can fully figure the first route by yourself. Anyone can, like, it's only some part of them need to be algorithmic. A lot of part is easier if you do it yourself and not, yeah.
I'm hungry. I have videos to
We
make.
talk about the we talk about the Hungarian invention and you get hungry.
One thing which is pretty funny videos wise, by the way, is that I have been dragging my feet over this video for quite some time. Today, I hopefully will be either the last or the second last day of me making this video. But I think tomorrow I'll be able to finish it. But then once I finish the video, I will try to upload a new video every 4 days. And I want to see how long I could keep the streak going. It's because a lot of next videos I either have like half done or they'll be easy to make. So I want to see once I make this video how many videos I could upload in how short of amount of time.
I want to see it too.
Yesterday,
Just like all unsubscribe from your Patreon and all stop making art so that you could just cut that from the videos. So like save time.
splendid idea. Oh no, but Stamped, what would I do without adding Make Hitler to the end of my videos? What's the point? If I can't add Make Hitler, why would I even make videos?
Wait, are you sure you wanna add that to?
Hell no, I'm not adding
Your
Make
video.
Hitler to my video. It's Make Hitler. I'm not doing that. I'm running low on coffee as well. Okay, you'll know what? I'm going. No time to waste. There's work to be done. So everyone, I'm gonna go walk on the video. I will also try to upload the patron preview today. And for now, I suppose that'll be it. Thank you everyone so much for watching and have a great day. Bye!